Jim Gibson from CableSupply.com, and stick around because at the end we got a special giveaway offer and you're going to love it. Hi, this is Jim Gibson with CableSupply.com, and this week I am out at ISC Squared Security Congress here in Florida. It's a fantastic time. Humidity is kind of high compared to what I'm used to down in San Diego, but it's a beautiful place, a lot of really nice people. There's a couple thousand, isn't there?
I've heard
the biggest I've ever
3,000 to 4,000 people this weekend.
It's like the biggest I've ever seen. Maybe it's because it's in Disneyland, right? Is it Disneyland? But anyway, it's been great. And we're going to talk today about cybersecurity. And I'm preparing for the exam. I haven't taken it yet, but I've taken enough of these exams to know when I'm ready. And I'm not quite ready. I went to class 2 days. This was the instructor. Did a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
You know what I really liked about your training is you kept my interest for 2 days. 2 days you kept my interest. I liked you get the right answer, you threw out the candy. That was great. That's a great idea. I've never seen anyone do anything like that.
I think I stole it from a 6th grade teacher at some point.
I should introduce you first.
Hi, I'm Ben Malisow. I teach for ISC Squared and do some consulting and writing. I teach the CCSP class, the CISSP, and the SSCP classes.
Maybe we should explain what that is to people that are not familiar with ISC Squared.
Sure.
And what each certification is and why it's important.
ISC Squared is a product and brand agnostic certification body internationally, similar to ISACA or ISSA. It's all dealing with computer security, knowledge, training, and awareness. There are different levels of certification and different types of certifications. Probably the most famous is the CISSP, which is kind of seen as the gold standard among IT security professionals. We also have specific types of certifications as well, such as the CCSP, the Cloud Security Certification, which is what our class was this weekend. And there's also a healthcare one for HIPAA-oriented as well. And there's a few other flavors too.
Yeah, and I think, when you talk about ISC Square, that they are the premier organization on these certifications. And these are not easy certifications where you can just guess your way through them. When I took the CISSP, it was a 6-hour exam. And I studied, a couple years for that exam, but it was a 6-hour exam, and it was, they're going to ask you some serious questions.
It was an ordeal at that time.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, I did mine with a number 2 pencil and a Scantron form.
Well, that was before me.
Okay, yeah.
I did mine on the computer.
It was frustrating and grueling is what it was. And it's one of the older ones, I think. It was one of the first recognized ones. And then eventually it became accepted not only by industry, but by government. The Department of Defense in the United States requires some form of certification, and ISC Squared is one of those that is very well recognized. Yeah.
If you looked at their, 85 something,
Yeah, 8510 or something like that.
8510, you look at that, what is required in each area, you just keep on seeing ISC Squared and CISSP.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, I think right now the rising thing is in cloud.
CCSP has become the hottest flavor right now. I think over 20 years, there's something like 50,000 CISSPs. Within 5 years of this thing coming out, I think they've already punched through 10,000. I mean, it's amazing. Everybody in the world wants to be in the cloud, and they want the certification to demonstrate their capabilities.
And it's valuable, even though you say 10,000 people are learning it. I mean, when you looked at the total membership, we're 145,000 worldwide. And so this is a very valuable certification. This isn't like what happened back in the 80s where everybody was becoming an MCSE.
Yeah.
And it started out, the pay was great. And then I hired this one guy who was an MCSE, and he couldn't figure out how to load an OS into a PC. So there were some problems back then. And I know, I don't want to badmouth Microsoft because I know they really worked on this and they solved it, and it is a very good certification also. But that's not what it is when it comes to ISC Squared. Talk a little bit about your background.
I started, I had a misspent youth in the United States Air Force. I served 4 years, and I got out and became a consultant and contractor. I worked in the DC area for a while, doing federal contracting. Some of my customers included DARPA, the FBI, Homeland Security. I left that for a while and became a teacher. I did 6th through 12th grade at a public school district, which was my most challenging and dangerous assignment to date. I've also taught at different levels as well, community college, university, University of Texas San Antonio, Carnegie Mellon. I've done some courses for them. Now I'm an instructor for ISC Squared. And along with most of that, I was either freelance or staff writer for different newspapers and magazines and publications along the way. Writing is just one of those addictions you can't get rid of, I think. So it all blended together and came together in these books.
And again, I can't emphasize enough, it's like some books I read, I better have a lot of sleep, and I better have a lot of coffee. I know I gotta get the information in, but I read 3 pages and all of a sudden my mind is on something else. You know, I hear a lawnmower going or a dog barking and I'm wondering what's going on. Your book is different, and I have to admit that. And I wouldn't say that if it wasn't. It's easier to read. It covers the same material, but it's well-written sentences that are easy to understand.
I can't tell you how proud I am to hear that. That's exactly what I was going for. I can't learn just from reading a book, for the most part, usually, because they're stilted. They've got this really high-level academic prose, and that it's not approachable for me as a reader. So when I wanted to write this, I wanted to write it in a very accessible way, a very conversational way, as if I was sitting down with someone and saying, here's what you need to know for the test. So I'm glad that conveyed. That really makes me so happy.
And so I've gone cover to cover numerous times.
Awesome.
And I think I'm going to be ready for the exam. I'm going to go through my notes, and I'm going to see if I can get this exam done before November. And right today is October 2019, so hopefully before Christmas I will have this certification and things like that. Can we talk just a little bit about cloud?
Sure.
Before we get to the offer at the end.
Okay.
I promised this at the very beginning about an offer at the end. So you got to see it to the end to get something we're going to give away in case you can't guess what it is. Okay. So why don't we talk a little bit about the cloud?
Sure. I am a skeptic of the cloud. For me, teaching it and writing about it, I'm still hesitant about giving my data off to somebody else. As a security professional for many, many, many years, that makes me paranoid. I don't like that idea. However, the benefits that the cloud offers transcends all of my adversarial approach to the idea of sharing my data. For the cloud, or in the cloud, we get such great continuity capabilities, redundancy, resiliency, disaster recovery functions. You get to switch from a capital expenditure model to an operational expenditure model, where I don't have to invest in a bunch of boxes that I'm going to put on my employees' desks, and they're only going to get 1/3 of the value out of them because they're never going to use 100% of that box. In the cloud, where everything's virtualized, they're going to be able to get the full value of whatever you're paying for from that cloud resource. So even in my skepticism, I have to acknowledge the fact that cloud is where we're going to be today. Cloud is the only thing that makes business sense at the moment, and therefore, as security professionals, we're going to have to deal with that risk of moving up there.
I think a lot of people are concerned about virtualization, and years ago, I got a certification in VMware. And one of the things that amazed me was to see someone click on a mouse on an image and move it from one PC to another and not lose anything in the transition.
Live migration. And I was just, I've loaded operating systems, and it takes hours to load an operating system, and here this person just and find the right drivers and make sure all the plugins are working, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing for malware. If you get a real machine, a tangible hardware device that gets infected by malware, to tear that thing down, rebuild it, reinstall, bring the data back in, you're talking about days sometimes, especially if it's a sensitive or highly regulated device. With a virtual machine, you get an infected virtual machine, kill it, reinstall it, put the data on. There you go. 3 seconds, right? Yeah.
To me, it's safer.
Oh, yeah.
To go to the cloud. And a lot of people say, oh, cloud. I'm not going to go to cloud. I say, well, where's your email?
Yeah.
Where's your email?
Yep.
Where's your accounting system? My accounting system's in the cloud. I'm not going to tell you where. My accounting system is in the cloud. Everything I do is in the cloud now.
Whether you like it or not.
Well,
the way we live today, yeah.
Prefer. Yeah. I mean, you know, and now you have certain responsibilities as, that's why you offer the course, your stuff.
And this is not a practitioner level certification, this is an expert level or managerial level certification. And it is a lot more competitive, I think, than the Microsoft certs, because they expect you to have some experience already in the areas that we discussed. And they expect you to have that significant amount of knowledge that you can actually demonstrate and have command over. So it's not an easy test either.
No, it is not, and you have to take it serious.
Yeah.
So what I've done, and if you saw my video on CISSP from years ago, I had multiple books, so it was about that high, of all the books that I studied and read, because I want to know the subject. This is my passion, this is my life. This is what I do as an IT person. I want to know about IT. I want to have an expertise in this. And so, of course, you know, one of the things I do is I like books. I like to write in books. I like to do things in book. And I picked up your book a little over a year ago, and it's right here in case some of you guys go visually looking for books. And it's CCSP, Certified Cloud Security Professional Official Study Guide. Of course, put that sticker there. I had an extra sticker and it had the backing off, and I just threw it there. But if you look at my book, and I always number my books, by the way, and it's kind of strange, and you're going to figure out later if you read my other stuff. This is book number 2. It doesn't mean it's my second book I purchased, okay?
On this topic?
On this topic. So the reason I put 2 is because I do my 3x5 cards. And so I always want to reference back to where I learned that subject. So I write the 3x5 card out, and then in the corner, I write the book I got it from. In this case, it's book 2. So I'll write 2 at the top, and then I'll write the page. So if I, you know, a week later, if I go back and I say, boy, I don't quite understand what I wrote down, then I already have my reference. Okay.
A fast citation. That's great. Yeah,
fast citation. Yeah. So my other books are 1, 2, 3. I think I have 4 total in this area. But if you notice this book, I don't know if you can get in on that. It's really written. I mean, really read. I take notes in the side. I add to things. I write out the things I want to memorize sometimes. And if you look, it has all these highlights. I like the yellow highlights because you can photocopy and they disappear. Where if you use the other highlights, you photocopy them and it becomes black. But this is a fantastic book. In my opinion, the best book.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so when I heard you were going to teach this subject matter, I decided I was going to go in your class.
Awesome.
And I wanted your class because of this book. And it wasn't that I needed more of the same. I wanted more of the same. I want more of each of these subjects that you spoke about in the books, and I want it from a different angle, and I want to be able to ask questions. So your class was great. You know, when you talk about ISC Square, and to get it on the internet, it's ISC2.org is on the internet. But you don't have to be a member to come to the events. You don't have to be certified. So, you know, if you're working for a company and you're in IT, then you need to talk to your boss about paying for some of these events and things like that. But anyway, getting back to the book, I don't know, man. It's like, you know, this is what I do to my books. I go through, and then the tests in the back, and we need to talk about your tests. But you see, each of those check marks, that's how many times I've taken the test, okay? So I'll take it, took it a year ago, and then I'll lay it down for a couple of weeks. I'll read it through that chapter again, that has tests in the back, and then I'll take it again and I'll record which ones I got right and wrong, and there's this one, man, I just keep on getting wrong.
It might be a typo. Maybe the question's wrong. That's the first edition, so there's an errata page on the publisher's website. Make sure you check that as well.
Well, yeah, but there are, every book has typos.
Yes.
Every book has typos. That's just the way it is. It's the content. Easy to read, easy to go. Now, you also just published another book.
Actually, these two came out about a year and a half apart. I did first the study guide and then a practice test book. This comes with about 700 practice questions per domain and a couple of practice tests. The practice test book, also from the same publisher and official from ISC Squared, is about 1,100 questions, and that's all it is just practice questions, and 2 review exams that you can try out as well. Both books, if you look at the back cover, it tells you how to go onto the publisher's website, authenticate your book, and then you get access to an online test engine, which is a simulation of how you would actually take the exam at Pearson VUE, which is a computer-based test, and that way you can drill down on the domains you want to focus on, or take a live practice test that is timed according to the 3-hour limit, and figure out what your scores are going to be. So, and a little additional benefit.
Ben, before we talk about why you need to be in the cloud, I should have asked at the beginning, what is your background? CSP. You got to handle your side of the cloud, but once you've handled your side and you uploaded it to AWS, which is my favorite, you upload it to AWS, they have professionals there, and they have duplicates of what you have. What is the, they'd lose 1 document in 3,000 years.
Is that?
I think that's what it is.
That's what they offer? That's their assurance of their SLAs and their contract?
Well, and the reason why is you upload your stuff, and then it's just like a mouse click. I'm sure they're not mouse clicking, it's done automated, but copies are made all throughout the region. And then on top of that, you can move it to another region.
You can have multiple regions if you're willing to pay for that extra additional resiliency. Yeah.
So, I've heard too many people say, well, I didn't do any backups. Can you help me because someone stole my server? It's like, what are you kidding? You don't do any backups? They just get tired of doing them, and it takes forever.
The city of Baltimore, they got locked out by ransomware earlier this year. And how do you defeat ransomware? You just reinstall your last backed up data. They didn't have backups. How do they not have backups? And so right now they're on the fence of whether should we pay the criminal who's encrypted our data, or should we just rebuild everything from scratch? And in the meantime, nobody can pay their taxes, not a terrible problem. Nobody can get a driver's license, no one can get a building permit because the entire city is locked up.
Yeah. And it's, as I discussed with you earlier today, I had a lady that said that she takes her backup home. And I said, well, how often? And she goes, every night. And I said, well, when's the last time you've taken it home? And she said, oh, well, to be honest with you, it was 2 months ago. And I said, well, if something happens to your server, and of course at the same time I mentioned to her, I said, what happens if you get a flood in this building? What happens? Sorry, guys. You can edit that out. There you go. So I said, what happens if you get a flood in that building? And she said, oh, never flood. Well, you know what happened the next day? My building got flooded.
and that's always a question of your RPO, your recovery point objective. If you need the last 24 hours worth of transactions, or you're going to go out of business, or the last 72 hours, the last week, if you're not carrying that flash stick home at that time frame every 3 days or whatever, you don't have that recovery point objective. If you're backing up to the cloud, which you do have to pay for, but you can do it on a more frequent basis, and you don't have to worry about it. You can set it, forget it, and automate everything. Yeah.
But I say to people when they say, well, I don't necessarily want to do the cloud. I'd rather have my own servers and things like that. And I say, okay, that's absolutely fine, but do you have your own power generator? And they say, well, no. I said, well, the cloud's the same way as your electric company. You only pay for what you use. And so it changes from a capital expense to an operational expense. So rather than paying $10,000 for that server or whatever you're paying for those servers, you don't pay that. You just pay for what you use.
$25 a month for that server to be virtually constructed in the cloud or whatever it is. Yeah.
And it's not lost.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem. But the idea is you only pay for what you use. So imagine you're sitting there with that generator and you got to put fuel in it every day. You got to put maintenance on it. Maintenance people are expensive, everything else, but you only use it.
Dangerous and flammable. Yeah.
And you got to keep it up 24/7 because you got a security thing. No, you don't do any of that. People laugh at you. You go and you
pay the power company.
Pay the power company.
Yep.
And so it changes the expense. Hey, we're getting probably much too deep. As I said at the beginning of the video, there is a giveaway.
Okay. I will share an autographed copy of either the study guide or the practice test book. I'll give it to you I'll send it to you for free to the first person who puts a comment on this YouTube video on YouTube.
Ask
now,
me.
I'm now
asking for the book.
asking for the book. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to limit this to the continental United States only because
Okay.
I can't pay, postage. Or if you can get it delivered via Amazon to where you're at, I will gift it to you where you're at. I can't unfortunately sign it over the internet. But other than that, yes, the first one to do the comment mentioning the book.
So that's what I talked about at the beginning. You came to the end, and so hopefully if you're the first person to watch this video and you write me an email, I will forward it to you. And I tell you what,
Perfect.
I thoroughly enjoyed your class. It was fantastic. It was entertaining, and you kept my interest for 16 hours.
Hard to do, I'm
2
sure it
days.
is. Thank you very much.
So
Thank you for having me.
Very few people have done that in a class, so it was excellent. So if you get a chance, come to the next Security Congress a year from now and ask for your class. I'm sure they'll have it again.
Outstanding.
Right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and talk to you later.